welcome to the podcast. I am Rui, and we will talk about an investigation that I have been carrying out on climate change and its action through to the study of the SDG number 13. I want to first of all thank to the interviewers for whom I could obtain the information and break down a very complete investigation. The interviewers were Professor Rafael Arteaga, Professor Elia Guevara, and Dalila Tenorio. The podcast will be divided by each interviewer. First, we will analyze it thoroughly and see how this drives me and drives us to take action on this global problem. To resume with the research, remember that we study three fields: scientific, educational, agricultural. So let's start. We start with the scientific field, in which Professor Arteaga is the interviewee. He mentions that it is a change that damages humanity, and there are now areas that are not having the temperatures they had before. In the field of physics, that to the change of the temperatures, there's change in variables. For example, the wind speed it creates that the result change, and now with the problem of the climatic change, it causes that the result in the physics are different, completion in the range before it did not. The changes he makes are now reducing trash, classifying his garbage, and participating in campaigns to combat climate change. For him, this represents a threat in his work, in his personal life, and comments that it can lead to the extinction. It makes us reflect that our planet is everything for us. There are changes that affect even the smallest corner of this world, from our personal life to our work, and that if we do not make a change at this time, we will not be able to save our home. Now we go with the field of education, where Professor Elia Guevara helped us to be interviewed. Begin in an overview that tells us that it affects all people on this planet. To continue with her vision as a teacher, for example, in each field, it's that people suffer these changes. Students or teachers get sick and causes education to stop, which through sudden changes of temperature causes people to not develop well in school. In her school, there are changes to be able to establish a well-being in the students and teachers. When changing the schedules of the free hours, workshops, and sport classes, she lives in an area where there is a lagoon, and says that by the extreme heat and the smell of the lagoon is sometimes not so pleasant. However, you have to continue with the work so that they are not in conditions. She believes that it is important that we take care of the environment and that educating people is a very important alternative in which order to make people aware of what's happened to our planet. Also, work at home is important and that somehow we have to work to combat this problem. We continue with the agricultural field, in which we were able to interview Dalila Tenorio. She's a person who has experience in this field, since she worked in it for a long time, with her family, friends, and other workers. She mentioned that she personally has perfectly noticed that there have been changes in the temperature. Being a rare place and working outdoors all the time mentions that of course there is a problem in our planet. Says that temperature tend to change causing problems at work, such as drought, lack of water due to the trough of the water wells, the need for water and animal welfare, the problem of crop growth, and the well-being of it to be comfortable with the environment. mentions that there is no one to help the community. It is up to them to fix their problems, such as lack of water or lack of food due to the lack of crops. She knows that it is very important for agriculture that everything is in order, and the temperature should be always in the same way with no extreme temperatures. She begins by taking actions to combat climate change, such as garbage classification, concludes that starting one by one we will make a change. To conclude with this research and close this podcast, we will talk about how these people created reflection that motivate us to have a change in our lives to combat climate change. Professor Ortega mentions that if we do not make a change now, we will end with humanity, and there are no exceptions. The damage is to everyone, and nobody is punished of it. Professor Evia tells us that the changes is in us, in education, of our homes, and they give us in school that we express everything we know to people who do not know about this and create a social conscience so that we can fight this together. Dalila believes that you have to start the change in yourself and that even if help never comes one by one, it will be fought and this problem can be almost solved.